Guns, polygamy, violence, apocalypse. These aren't words from a movie. The How survivors described life inside the Branch Davidians, a group that started as a small offshoot of a respected church and ended in fire on live television in front of the entire world. And today, who they were, what they believe, and how it ended is one of the most controversial standoffs in American history. And by the end, you will decide if whether this is a genuine faith or a cult. Let's get into it. So the story begins start with David Koresh. It started with a Bible, a calendar, and a church most people trusted. 1863, America. The Seventh-day Adventist Church forms. They believe Jesus' return is close. They worship on Saturday, the actual Sabbath, and they take Bible prophecy extremely seriously, especially Daniel and Revelation. And within decades, it's a legit global movement with millions of members, hospitals, university, a real respected denomination. But a church built around the end is coming soon tends to produce impatient people, and impatience mixed with prophecy is how splinter groups are born. In 1929, Bulgarian immigrant Viktor Hotev breaks away from the SDA church believing it's gone soft, and in 1930 he forms his own group, the Davidians, after King David, and in 1935 he sets up a self-sufficient community in Waco, Texas, Mount Carmel Center. When Hotev dies in 1955, his wife Florence takes over and predicts the end of the world for April 22, 1959. Hundreds of followers sell everything and wait, but nothing happens. The group collapses, but a stubborn remnant organizes as the Branch Davidians, and that's where our story really begins. For decades, the Branch Davidians stayed small. Leadership passed from Louis Rodin, who controversially claims the Holy Spirit is feminine, fringe even by splinter group standards, but the group survives. In 1981, a 22-year-old named Vernon Howell shows up at Mount Carmel. He's charismatic, intense, and no scriptures cold. He forms a close and even sexual relationship with Louis Rodin, who is in her late 60s, which justifies as prophetic destiny. This sparks a power struggle with Louis' son George Rodin, ending in a literal armed standoff at Mount Carmel in 1987. Vernon is acquitted, but it's clear now, whoever controls Mount Carmel controls the movement. By 1990, Vernon has full control and has a new name, David Koresh. David after the king, and Koresh, the Hebrew form of Cyrus, the Persian king who freed the Israelites. The message is, I am the one who fulfills prophecy. And Koresh begins to rebuild the group's theology around himself, a final prophet who alone can unlock the book of Revelation's 7 seals, and who teaches that the final confrontation with the US government isn't just possible, it's prophesied. And he introduces something that earlier Davidians never had: total control over his followers' personal lives. So this is where things get genuinely disturbing. See, Koresh declared that he alone had the right to have children with the community's women, including women already married to other members, who were expected to live celibately as brothers and sisters, while Koresh fathered children with multiple partners, some of them being teenagers. Former members and investigators later testified that Koresh had sexual relationships with girls as young as 12 and 13 years old, framed inside the group as spiritually sanctioned marriages, one of the most serious well-documented allegations against them, and a major reason Texas child welfare authorities had already opened investigations before 1993. Daily life revolved around Koresh's Bible studies, which could run all night. Members lived communally, surrendered personal autonomy, and were taught that the outside world, especially the US government, was corrupt and ultimately the enemy in a coming final battle. That belief had teeth. The group was legally acquiring firearms and modifying them, including converting semi-automatics into fully automatics and stockpiling ammunition, enough to draw the attention of the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. By 1993, the ATF had built a case to search Mount Carmel. That decision triggered the most infamous chapter of this entire story.
Out in the country without fire hydrants, you have to haul all of your water. It's just a very bad scenario here.
On February 28, 1993, the ATF attempts to execute a search warrant on Mount Carmel. Koresh's group is somehow tipped off in advance, and when agents arrive, a gunfight breaks out. 4 ATF agents and 6 Branch Davidians die. No one to this day agrees on who died first. What follows is a 51-day standoff. The FBI surrounds Mount Carmel, negotiating while Koresh alternates between cooperative phone calls and prophetic ramblings about needing time to finish his manuscript on the 7 seals before surrendering. Negotiators get dozens of children and some adults out during the siege, but most of the roughly 80 remaining members stay inside with Koresh by choice, believing they are living out prophecy they have spent years preparing for. On April 19, 1993, the FBI runs out of patience and begins inserting tear gas using armored vehicles to force everyone out. But instead, a fire breaks out. Within roughly 40 minutes, Mount Carmel is fully engulfed. 76 people die, including David Koresh and more than 20 children. How the fire started is still disputed. The government's position is that the members deliberately set it as part of a mass suicide pact consistent with Koresh's apocalyptic teachings. Survivors and some independent investigators argued it was accidental, caused by the tear gas or the vehicles themselves. A 1999 admission that the FBI had used a small number of pyrotechnic tear gas rounds earlier after years of denial fueled conspiracy theories, though officials maintained those rounds weren't the cause. What's not disputed is that 76 people died, including 25 children, in one of the most deadliest domestic standoffs in modern American history. So, faith or cult? If we go by Robert Lifton classic criteria for identifying cult dynamics, total control of communication, demands for purity, a charismatic leader treated as infallible, and a sense of sacred science that cannot be questioned, the Branch Davidians under David Koresh check almost every single box. Total authority over member-body relationships and belief, a leader who positioned himself as the literal fulfillment of prophecy, total isolation from outside information. But it's worth separating two different things here. The theology, Sabbath worship, prophetic urgency, and communal living has real roots in legitimate Seventh-day Adventist tradition, and most Adventists are quick to point out that the Branch Davidians were considered a fringed, disowned offshoot and not a reflection of the mainstream church. And what turned this from an intense religious community into something far more dangerous wasn't the theology on its own, it was the unchecked power. One man, with no outside accountability, slowly rewriting doctrine to justify control over people's bodies, relationships, and eventually their lives. That's arguably the important lesson in this entire story. It's really the beliefs themselves that turn deadly. It's what happens when one person gets control over what those beliefs actually mean, with nobody actually allowed to push back. So that's the story of the Branch Davidians, from a respected church to a prophetic splinter group to one of the most devastating sieges in US history. But let me know in the comments, do you think that this was a genuine faith that spiraled out of control, or was it always heading towards disaster? And if you want me to go deeper into any of this, the SDA connection, the ATF raid itself, the conspiracy theories around the fire, drop it below and I might make a part 2. If you've learned something new today, hit the subscribe button, because we're going deep into more stories like this one. See you in the next video. This is TomyTales. Take care and stand by.